Story 1. I hid my debts, finances, and academic situation from my parents out of pride, which blocked their support. Instead of pursuing a PhD in a field I love, I chose a career that would allow me to make money in the short term. I am okay now, but sometimes I wonder, what if? Story 2. I never think about my age. In boot camp, a drill instructor asked me, and I blurted out my age so fast that I gave the wrong number. I wasn't about to tell her I had messed up, so I have been a year older than I really am ever since. Story 3. This one is harmless and funny. I told my mom I knew how to crochet and make blankets, but I did not. I thought it would be easy. Let me tell you, it is not. Took me 5 months, but I finished it. Now I can complete one in a few weeks. Best lie ever. Story 4. My narcissistic parents bought a dog they could not afford. They knew my grandmother would be upset with them for their frivolous spending. So they lied and said they found the puppy in the trash outside on garbage day. Can you believe that? Grandmother, of course, believed it and invited all her friends over for a baby shower for this miracle dog, who barely survived being sent to the dump to die. She spoiled that dog more than any of her children and grandchildren combined. No one wanted to break her heart, so the lie continued until grandmother passed away. Story 5. My dog's name is Lana. My neighbor called her Luna by mistake, and I did not correct her. 8 years later, she still calls her Luna. I feel it would be awkward to correct her now and live in fear that someone will tell her the truth. Story 6. It's not a lie I told. I just never corrected her, and now it's years down the line. My name has an accent over a letter, like Chloe with an acute accent on the E. We have a close family friend, someone I consider a second mother, who used to spell my name without the accent. I never corrected her because it was not a big deal to me until she saw me write my own name. She asked me about it and then made it a point to always use that accent. Although she accidentally switched the letters and spells my name as Chloe with the accent on the O instead of the E. It's been almost 10 years now. I can never tell her. Story 7. When I was about 11, I got a Barbie with a pony for Christmas. I loved it. When I went back to school after the holidays, my friend asked me what I got. I said a Barbie and a pony. She was like, "Wow, a pony?" and asked questions about its color and if it had a long mane. I was telling her about it. After a while, when she asked if she could come ride my pony, I realized that she thought I meant a real pony. By this point, I had told her so much about this pony that I didn't know how to tell her it was plastic. So I just went along with it. Story 8. When I was a teenager, I tried a carrot cake my friend made while learning to bake. I don't like carrot cake, but to be supportive and encourage her, I told her it was delicious and my absolute favorite. Somehow, word spread to my mother and other friends that I love carrot cake, so whenever they brought desserts, they brought carrot cake. I thought I had escaped it when I moved states, but when I introduced my then-girlfriend, now wife, to my old friends, somehow the topic turned to foods and they told her I love carrot cake. Now she often bakes carrot cake. Her children, my stepchildren, have noticed this, and now they sometimes buy me carrot cake slices from the grocery store. I really do not like carrot cake at all, but I still eat it and say thank you. I have accepted my carrot cake fate. Edited to add, since people keep asking, please stop assuming I am male. I am not male. I was unaware my old friends told my now wife that carrot cake was my favorite. I only found out when she presented me with the cake she baked some time later. It's not easy to say, it's not my favorite, when someone who loves you is so enthusiastic and bright-eyed over it. I am on the autism spectrum. I am not the most socially savvy and I am never quite sure how to phrase things with grace. This carrot cake situation played into that. 2 commenters offered good advice to gently redirect without hurting feelings, which I will be taking. Thank you, Quixotic James and DixieBell64. Story 9. I became a vegetarian at age 7 due to a child's vision of animal rights. When I was 20, I worked on a political campaign out of state where a family provided me with housing to support the candidate. My hours were long, and they went to bed early, so we rarely saw each other. I had the evening of the 4th of July off, so they asked if I would join them for dinner. After I said yes, they told me they always make beef tips for the 4th of July. Not wanting to disrupt their tradition, I ate the beef tips and told them they were delicious. At the end of the summer, I decided to head back home rather than continue on the campaign until the November election. When I informed the family I was staying with that I would be leaving, they said, "It has been great having you here. We would love to give you a goodbye dinner, and we know how much you love beef tips." I am now in my late 30s, and those are the only 2 times I have had beef since I was 7. Story 10. When I was younger, before my father was medicated for various mental illnesses, he had a short temper. It was never physical, just very loud and easily triggered. Anytime something small happened, like the remote going missing, batteries being removed from something, or furniture and walls being scuffed or damaged, my youngest brother, who was about 7 years old at the time, would always get the blame, get yelled at, shut down, and go to his room to cry. Like clockwork. One day, I decided to start taking the blame because I had stood up to my father plenty of times, and he would just let it go with me. Eventually, it spiraled into me being able to lie very easily in these situations. I started doing it in other scenarios because it was comical. I only ever did it in the who did this situations, and it was never harmful. Eventually, my siblings caught on, and now it's a running joke that I'm really good at lying. Disclaimer. It's all in good fun, and I never do it in harmful situations. I'm not really a good liar outside that specific scenario, but it's funny to see my siblings trying to decide if I actually moved their drink or ate their brownie. Story 11. My nail technician is convinced she knows a friend of mine. I have absolutely no idea who she is referencing and got tired of trying to figure out who it was. So now, whenever I get a pedicure and she asks how my friend is, I just make up a story about that friend. It makes her happy. Technician. How is your friend? Me, oh, she is good. She is going on vacation soon. Technician. Oh, tell her to come see me. Me, I will. Story 12. In middle school, someone randomly asked me if I was Jewish. I am not, but I said I was to see their reaction. A decade later, many people, including Jewish people, still thought I was Jewish. It was totally absurd and hilarious. Story 13. I pretty much can never eat anything sweet ever again unless in private. When I started dating my now husband, I was quietly trying to lose weight. He loves chocolate and other sweets, and after I turned down the 3rd or 4th sweet thing offered, he asked why. Slightly embarrassed by my diet, I told him I hated the taste of sweet. A few days later, my stepson offered one of his sweets, and my husband let him know I don't like sweet things. Weeks turned to months, and months turned to years. My friends and immediate family quietly played along with a few comments like, "Grandma, don't you remember? Princess Flubkern hates sweets?" Cakeless birthdays came and went. Halloween candy became something to admire through shop windows. When we went out to eat, the cheese board replaced the cheesecake. Then my husband proposed, and I said yes. It was then I realized I was in too deep. The day I said my vows was the day I waved chocolate, ice cream, and sugar in my coffee away forever. Yes, I am an idiot. Story 14. I started hanging out at the bar and drinking at 18. The legal age is 21 where I live. I became a regular at a particular bar quickly and stayed a regular for a decade. For many years, I told people I was 3 years older than I am. I have 5 years of sobriety now. Story 15. I told my husband that I like to mow the yard. I probably did when I was in my 20s and a workout enthusiast, but I am in my late 60s now, and our yard is bigger. However, I am still mowing. At least he does the trimming. Story 16. Not me, but my mother. She did not like going out with some of her coworkers for lunch. She thought that telling them she was vegetarian would discourage them from inviting her. Mind you, this was over 20 years ago when restaurants often did not have vegetarian options. Anyway, she ate vegetarian for 7 years while working at that company unless she was home. Story 17. When I was 6, my mom asked me if I liked Snoopy. I said yes, by which I meant Snoopy was fine. But apparently, I said it in such a way that somehow communicated, "I really love Snoopy, Mom." My birthday was coming up, and the decorations, the cake, and the gifts from my parents were all Peanuts themed. I was a little shocked, but my mom reminded me that I had said I liked Snoopy. She had me there. Even at 7, I knew to be polite and gracious, especially in front of company. so I made a big show of how awesome everything was. Aunts, cousins, and others in attendance witnessed how happy Snoopy and his friends made me. So at Christmas 3 months later, almost all of my gifts were Snoopy related. In my heart of hearts, I still thought Snoopy was just fine. But I decided to own this new identity as a Snoopy superfan and roll with it. For Easter, my birthday, Christmas, and so on for the following 3 years, almost everything I received as a gift was Peanuts merchandise. My parents and many people in their circle were really into thrifting, yard sales, and clearance sales. Turns out there is a lot of cheap Snoopy merchandise out there. And so much of it ended up in my childhood bedroom. Bedding, clothing, wall art, a rug, school supplies, that snow cone machine, lots of books, figurines, cups, plates, bowls, a lunchbox, and many toys. I began to frame my self-worth by how much Peanuts merchandise I could acquire. My collection got so large that by third grade, arguably the last age at which a little boy could show off his Snoopy collection in the early 1980s without getting in trouble, my mom arranged for it to be displayed in a big glass case in the school library for a while. I posed for a photo next to it that ended up in the local newspaper. Snoopy and I had made it to the big leagues. Then, one day toward the end of fourth grade, a handful of my classmates calmly informed me that Snoopy was gay. It would take me at least 15 more years to realize Snoopy and I have that in common, but I decided pretty quickly that it was time to leave him in the doghouse. So that's how I became a temporary Snoopy superfan and then dropped him like a hot potato because he was bad for my image. Story 18. I'm straight. A lie I told myself and, as a result, lost my first true love because my feelings scared me so much. Story 19. I did not study well and did not like biology that much, but I was actually a great student and loved biology. Later, I just stopped studying. I am getting back on my feet now, though. Story 20. When I was 10, I attempted to play softball despite being truly awful at all sports. During the first practice, I thought I was supposed to throw the ball with the hand wearing the baseball glove. Somehow, the coach interpreted that as me actually being right-handed, even though I am left-handed. He told my parents, and they had to get me a glove for my other hand. I played the rest of the season with the wrong hand because I was too embarrassed to tell the coach that I really had no idea how to play the sport. Story 21. I have a twin. Started when I met a girl I really could not stand at the mall, and she walked over to me. In a panic, I pretended not to know her and acted like I was my own twin. I told her that it happened often and that I would tell my twin she said hi. I am in college now, and all of my friends still think I have a twin named Janice. Yes, that is the name I came up with in a panic because I am a fan of Friends. Story 22. I got very sick several years ago over the Jewish high holy days. I am not Jewish. My doctor was Jewish, so I just went to an urgent care. Also, very few Jewish people live where I do, and there is very little awareness of Judaism. He was not happy with my care at urgent care. He said, "Why didn't you call me?" I said, "It was Rosh Hashanah." After that, he said a bunch of words I think were Yiddish mixed with English, and in horror I thought, does he think I'm Jewish? Not because I'm anti-Semitic, but because I am not Jewish and he is. So I never brought it up and he retired. He was the best doctor I ever had. Story 23. I cannot stand any kind of fish or seafood, but many of my friends love sushi and would constantly try to get me to eat it. So I said I was allergic to make them stop. 10 years later, I have to be very careful not to eat anything with seafood in it, or they will freak out like I am going to die. It is way too late to come clean now. Story 24. I had a hard time understanding my new landlord, so I told him my French was not very good. I am fluent in French and had just moved to Quebec. That made for an awkward few months. One day, I forgot to switch over to English, and he remarked that my French was getting very good. Story 25. So, not a lie I told, just one I had witnessed for 7 years. My daughter is very shy, and at her first softball practice when she was 6, the coach was going down the roster and pronounced her name Brianna. Her name is Brianna, and he was using what I would consider to be the fancy version of Anna with the ah sound. She did not correct him. When the first game happened and I heard him say her name, I was confused. I asked her why she didn't correct him. She said she didn't know. I told her to politely let him know how to say it, and she was like, "I can't now. It's been too long." and it would be awkward, and that's what my teammates call me too. So, for 7 years she let these people call her by the wrong name and begged me not to correct them because she'd be too embarrassed by the fact that she hadn't done it in the first place. Story 26. I complimented a friend on her purse. I actually thought it was the most hideous bag I had ever seen. She bought me one, and I felt obligated to carry it any time we hung out. We did not hang out much after that. Story 27. I told my group of trivia night friends that I had a master's degree, even though I only have a bachelor's. That was 12 years ago, and one of the people from the group, whose name I prefer not to share, still sends me job applications requiring a master's degree. I desperately want to come clean, but that friend, though very kind, is the type of person you do not want to upset if she has had a bad day. If only I could adequately prepare myself for the difficult conversation I know I need to have. Perhaps some rehearsal would help me. Story 28. Backstory. Ever since my sister was young, she didn't like meat. She could eat a small portion of chicken and a good portion of pork chops, but that was it. Even as an adult, she's not a fan. This all changed at a Mexican party when she tried birria and fell in love with it. Back to me. I am okay with meat, but I don't need it in my meal to feel satisfied. Once, while talking to my significant other's mother, she misunderstood me and thought I loved birria due to a language barrier. The truth is, the only meal I really hate is birria. By the time I understood what she thought, it was too late because she was handing me a plate of it that she made for me. When I told my sister about my dislike of meat, she said I couldn't tell her the truth but should still bring her some every time. We used to work together and I used to bring lunch. It was so bad that I traded birria for coworker sandwiches. Obviously, my coworkers and sister loved those days and could not understand how I preferred a sandwich instead. I still haven't told her the truth, and she makes a lot of birria because apparently her grandchildren also love it. At this point, the easiest thing to do is to train my taste buds to like it. Story 29. Can someone connect that woman's confession about buying pre-made cakes and only adding the frosting and design, but selling them as fully homemade for her company? Very funny. Story 30. I jokingly told my now wife, the love of my life and soon-to-be mother of our first child, that I hated shrimp on our first date. No, even more than that I had some kind of innate fear of them. I started mentioning how they were just the cockroaches of the sea, nightmare fuel, and kept going on and on with the subject, probably because it was a first date and I was nervous, so my mind broke for a bit. I don't even know how shrimp came up in conversation in the first place. Fast forward 6 years, and this angel has done everything in her power to prevent shrimp from ever even touching my dinner plate. She makes sure to discreetly inform everyone we know that I have a deep phobia and to be mindful that it should be omitted from my portion. Never have I been served or offered shrimp, and I'm about 90% positive it is because she took the initiative. The thing is, I love shrimp. I've been eating it since I was a kid, and it was a staple of my diet. I think, due to how insistent my wife has been on letting people know not to give me shrimp, that even my side of the family convinced themselves maybe I never actually liked it. Even my mother, who made me multiple shrimp dishes a week. She's Vietnamese, so shrimp is used in a lot of dishes. Over the years at my insistence, now thinks maybe I never did eat shrimp growing up and it was my siblings who loved it while I just put up with it. So now I'm relegated to eating shrimp secretly when I have the chance, all the while trying to build up a trail of hints here and there of me slowly coming around to shrimp, in hopes that one day I can naturally and convincingly show everyone in my life that I progressively got over my fear, and actually these sea cockroaches aren't all that bad, especially barbecued and dipped in a garlic sauce with chili oil. Story 31. Not me, but someone in my family. They pretended to be pregnant, gave birth, and then lost the baby almost immediately after. The only pictures of this baby are ones found online from infant loss websites. They will not share the birth or death certificate and have shown no proof when the photos were recognized from their original sources. Only a few immediate family members know, and no one else. She still, almost 10 years later, considers this her first child. She has 2 real children now. She has a tattoo and remembers the baby on its fake birthday. It was a whole thing she overshared online, so I know at least publicly she cannot come clean, but she will not privately either. It destroyed her relationships with those who know, and it is frustrating to see her still pretending. Story 32. I was working through a problem in my head and was unaware of my surroundings, which included my girlfriend at the time. Unbeknownst to me, I was apparently talking to myself under my breath. Out of nowhere, she started saying, "Ah," and gave me a huge hug. Apparently, something I said sounded like, "mi amor," and she thought it was my way of saying the L word to her for the first time. She changed her contact name in my phone to mi amor, started signing messages with it, shared the story constantly, and made comments about the excitement of dating a Latin man. I do have some heritage, but my Spanish is from Southern California immersion. I have no idea what she heard me say. I completely lost my train of thought when she started, "ah" at me, and I have no idea what I had been thinking about or the problem I was working through at that moment. The only thing I know is that I absolutely did not say mi amor, and I never corrected her. Story 33. I was embarrassed to be on a diet, so when my coworker offered me soda at work, I told them that soda gives me bad heartburn. Now I cannot drink soda at work without someone commenting on how I am taking a risk. Story 34. I made a joke that I had Russian origins because my name sounds Russian in high school. Before I knew it, the whole school thought I was Russian, even though that is not true. My tip is to never go along with a lie. Just tell the truth as quickly as possible when you feel a lie is becoming too big. Story 35. I didn't want to tell my friends I had dropped out of university, so I didn't. I eventually came back home, even though I had been living at home for more than a year at that point and said I had graduated. For years after that, I was the person who apparently had a degree in physics but couldn't find a job, or eventually the person who had a job unrelated to my degree. I could have told them early on that I had dropped out, and that would have been that. But they all assumed I had graduated and I didn't bother correcting them, and then it was too late to fix it. Story 36. For some reason, the lady at the Thai carryout in our neighborhood thinks my husband's name is Steve. It has been going on for over 20 years. Story 37. I did not have the courage to break up with my loud, obnoxious, clingy girlfriend, so I told her I was moving to Yemen. Now I live here at 15 Yemen Road, Yemen. Story 38. I told my coworkers that I was knowledgeable in dealing with animals because I used to work as a ranch hand in high school. In reality, I helped my grandma milk 2 dairy cows and fed her chickens whenever I visited. Now every one of them comes to me for the best ways to deal with unruly cats or dogs. Help. Story 39. My mother-in-law wanted her hair done for a birthday present. The hairstylist I go to is very expensive and has limited client slots, so I got her a gift card for a hair salon I have only been to once. They did a good job that one time. However, my mother-in-law thought that was my regular hairstylist, and I just went along with it. Turns out she loved the salon and ended up going there all the time. Now she gives me life updates about her hairstylist, thinking I know her too, but I do not and just go along with it. Story 40. Everyone thinks I am a fan of Star Wars. There were a bunch of Star Wars shirts at the thrift store in my size, so I bought them. Now, everybody thinks I am a big Star Wars fan, and I politely accepted a few too many gifts. This is now my life. I am a Star Wars fan. Story 41. Crazy story. When I was in 4th grade, I was a huge crybaby and the youngest in class. My language teacher, let's call her Ms. K, would punish us for not bringing our language textbook. Just my luck, I forgot it one day. I was searching my bag as if I didn't know I forgot it, and my eyes started stinging because I was tearing up. I did not want to get confronted by her. Miss K called to me and asked, "What's wrong?" I did not even think when I blurted out, "I can't see," and I was moved to the front row. Long story short, I had to go to the eye doctor because I actually could not see after that day. Now I am very visually impaired. I cannot do anything without my glasses. The only good thing that came out of it was that Miss K did not even ask me if I had the language textbook. Story 42. I lied about having a child at my current job. I thought I would be out in 6 months to a year, but it has been 30 months and I am in pretty deep. Story 43. I grew up in a tight-knit community, and my first job was waitressing in my cousin's restaurant. There was an older woman who lived across the street from the restaurant. Her adult son lived with her and was her caretaker. I'm not sure if she had dementia, but I think something like that. The two of them would take walks through town every day, and stopping at the restaurant for a pot of tea was a daily ritual for them. This lovely woman always called me Rose, which is not my name. She was always very kind to me, the preteen waitress, even though I witnessed her have some unkind outbursts toward other people. Rose is actually my middle name, so I thought it was kind of cute and went along with it. The other staff asked me why she always called me Rose. I explained that I had no idea why, but it was harmless, and I was afraid that if I corrected her, she might stop being so sweet to me. To her, I was Rose until she died. I never corrected her. Story 44. We can sell the house and move. I can definitely get a job in British Columbia. I went from being an engineer with a 3-bedroom house to living in a 2-bedroom apartment with my wife and 3 kids, with a leaking roof, mice, mold, and rent 50% higher than my previous mortgage. I spent over 2 years job hunting before finding a job as a technician. My retirement plan has now devolved into outliving my wife and then taking medical assistance and dying. To be fair, when I made the promise, my wife had been suffering from a soul-destroying combination of terrifying postpartum depression after our second child, coupled with severe back issues related to muscle and spinal damage from giving birth twice. We are talking about living with near-chronic pain that allowed only 2 to 4 hours of movement a day and severe sleep deprivation because of both babies and chronic pain issues. She had always wanted to move somewhere warmer, but I was terrified I would never find employment. After a frightening crisis moment, I told her we could move to British Columbia where it was warmer, and that I could get us housing and find a job in the Vancouver area. This is an area of Canada that was relatively warm but had both the 3rd most expensive real estate on the planet and a very poor job market, about 1/15 to 1/17 the size of the job market in Ontario for my field. I took paternity leave because our 3rd child was born and let my employer know I would not be coming back. We moved the family to British Columbia a month after she was born, but 2 weeks before the move, our first child was diagnosed with moderate autism. We moved, and instead of finding a job within 18 months, I found a job after 27 months. My youngest daughter's 2nd birthday triggered a call to a suicide hotline because of the unemployment and watching Canadian housing prices nearly triple during that time. Pro tip: never tell a suicide hotline you are suicidal if you have kids. They might take them away from you. On a positive note, my wife started physiotherapy when we moved, and after 4 years had very little chronic pain and much less severe depression. By sheer luck, we moved into a neighborhood that actually has services for special needs children. Story 45. Not as dramatic as some others here, but one of my first jobs out of college, I told the chief executive officer that I loved SoulCycle because she went nearly every morning. She started inviting me all the time, and I had to keep up the ruse for the 4 years I worked there. I hated SoulCycle. I still hate it. Story 46. Pretended to be a morning person during my job interview. Got the position, but they made me the opening manager. I have been waking up at 4 a.m. for 2 years now, and everyone thinks I am naturally cheerful at dawn. I am struggling inside. Story 47. I hid a lot of things from my father. He is single, and I am an only child. I am 17 years old, and I have bad friends. About a year ago, I met a girl who was very kind. My friend tried to sleep with her, but she knew martial arts. She beat him and told me. I forgave him, but we never hung out again. 2 weeks ago, I accidentally met her father. He was an old man with a big smile. I opened the door for him while entering the mall. He started a conversation about how his daughter, my girlfriend, would be the perfect girl for me. He invited me to his house. My girlfriend heard this and played along. We went to the man's house, had dinner, talked, and even had a prayer ceremony. He essentially arranged our marriage without knowing that I was already dating his daughter. Story 48. I told everyone I am bisexual. When I was in 4th grade, I was 10 at the time, we had to make a pencil case in art class. I didn't have any ideas, so I just painted a bisexual flag on it. Everyone started to call me a lesbian, and I hated that. 2 years later, I thought, everyone thinks I am gay because of my best friend, so why not get a girlfriend? We broke up a month later, and everyone in my class thought I was a lesbian until last month when I fell for a guy. Everything is so random, but I went from becoming an ally to being bisexual. Story 49. A convenience store where I live has a woman who confuses me with my brother. After correcting her a few times, I eventually stopped because she did not remember my real name. Now, when I go in, she still calls me by my brother's name. I just go along with it. Story 50. A regular at my work calls one of my coworkers by the wrong name. He has been doing it for years. My coworker responds to the name and has never corrected him. For that one guy, my coworker is a completely different person, and he is very confident in it. He comes in and says, "Hey, wrong name. How is it going? How is wrong name today?" I honestly cannot wait for the day he finds out. Story 51. Telling my grandmother I liked something she made. It was not bad, but she makes it once a week when I visit her, and I can no longer stand to eat it. I have not had the heart to tell her, so now friends receive it as a gift when I visit them. Story 52. In a music lesson at school, we were working on a project to write a song as a class. The teacher asked if anyone could play drums, and I put my hand up and said that I could. I had never played drums before in my life. That is how my life as a musician began. Story 53. I am not very ticklish. My dad was not ticklish at all. He was very boring. But it made me realize it was a switch I could control if I wanted. I can choose not to really care, but I did not want to be boring like my dad. I wanted my kids to have fun tickle fights with me, so I did and I still do. I divorced a while back, and my partner of 5 years thinks I am very ticklish. My ex probably did too. Every once in a while, when someone is really trying, I want to stop, but I cannot. Now I have to keep up the ruse. The kids have so much fun. Story 54. My mother told me I was part Mexican growing up and that I looked white. Later, I was told it was not true for some reason, but I had already told everyone I knew. Anyway, it turns out I tan really easily because I work outside. Before, people were questioning it. Now, people are surprised to find out I am white. Story 55. My uncle was having a conversation with 19 to 20-year-old me about the importance of savings and asked me how much I had saved. At the time, I was not very knowledgeable or interested in finance, so I made up a figure and told him I had saved £6,000. He looked at me with wide-eyed admiration and applauded me. He told me how hard he had worked to save just £3,000 and praised me for being able to save that amount in a relatively short time. I felt awful. I did not have the heart to admit my lie, and I never discussed finances with him again, hoping that, however life played out, that £6,000 would slowly be forgotten. Story 56. Accidentally told my coworkers I speak fluent Italian. I had to take secret lessons during lunch breaks and even joined an Italian club. 2 years later, I actually do speak Italian. Story 57. Most of these are not lies. They are people being socially dysfunctional and incapable of correcting others or standing up for themselves. Story 58. One time, my friend invited me to a peach festival, but I didn't want to go so much that I made up that my non-existent sister was moving house and I had to help her move. Then my friend said, "Oh, I won't go to the festival. I'll help your sister move." They asked where she was moving and I gave a fake address. It turned out to be a dodgy warehouse, and I needed to steal my flatmate's furniture and move it there to fake my sister's situation. But when I took them there, they asked why my sister was not there, and I said she was actually moving to Albania. They insisted on meeting her before she moved. A male ended up dressing up as my fake sister, and they did not realize it was me. They insisted on seeing my sister off, so I got on the plane and they left. Security arrested me in Albania for not having a passport, and I was imprisoned for years until my friend, who accidentally joined the Marines, rescued me. They took me back to the United States where it was the day of the Peach Festival again, and I was forced to go. Semper Fi. Story 59. I don't know why, but I lied about being grossed out by feet and toes to my friends years ago. I guess my brain just started believing the lie, and it became the truth. Story 60. Not really a lie, but I love peanut butter. However, I do not want it in every single thing that people make for or gift to me. I politely accept all gifts with a smile on my face because I like to think I am a decent human being. Story 61. I thought of another one. I love Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands, like cult following love. However, this translated to my brother and his family as me liking all Tim Burton films, specifically The Corpse Bride and The Nightmare Before Christmas, neither of which I like at all. So now, because I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings, every holiday I receive some kind of gift with one of the two on it. Last year, it was a Corpse Bride walking challenge where you get a medal at the end. Before that, it was Sally and Jack mugs. This happens even when I specifically say I have enough memorabilia. Story 62. This is mundane, but I told a bunch of coworkers that I go by my legal name just for the hell of it. Eventually, my wife got a job at the same place. She started calling me by my full legal name because they were doing it, but she kept going after we moved out of state. She introduced some new people to that name, and we are coworkers again. Every single person I know calls me by my full legal first name. I've just adjusted at this point. Story 63. I was a really bad student and kid in my old school. Then my parents moved. My old school was top-notch, but the one after was not. Whenever I was called in class, people thought I was smart because we had already covered the material. I liked that. I am now in the third year of law school. Story 64. My ex loved durian, but I hated it. To please her, I lied and said I liked it too. I often bought it for her, and eventually I loved it as well. Story 65. I lost my virginity to my prom date. We spent the night together but did not hook up. However, for some foolish reason, I told my friend that we did, and the word got out to our friend group. It has been 15 years since, and it still comes up from time to time, which always makes me feel like a loser. Story 66. I went to live in Lithuania. They never got the pronunciation of my name right, and I got bored correcting people, so I went along with their pronunciation. Now I have two names, my Scottish one and my Lithuanian one. I scared my girlfriend, who is now my wife, when I said, "You know, my actual name is." She laughs about it now and uses both versions depending on whether we are speaking in English or Lithuanian. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.